If I were to say, God, why me, about the bad things, then I should have said, God, why me, about the good things that happened in my life. Former number one tennis player in the world, Arthur Ashe, said this after multiple setbacks in both his career and his personal life. He fought through challenges and achieved much success in many different areas, characterizing a great tragedy and triumph of an individual human being. Ashe was born on July 10, 1943, in Richmond, Virginia, and quickly became attached to his mother's hip, as most young children do. In an unfortunate turn of events, Ashe's mother died when he was only 6 years old. This was the first stroke of bad luck to occur in Arthur's life, with many more to come. About a year after his mother died, Ashe picked up his first racket at a nearby park, and shortly thereafter fell in love with the game. In that same year, Arthur's luck turned around when he met Ronald Charity. At the time, Charity was one of the best African-American tennis players in the United States. Charity took a liking to Ashe and began teaching him. As Ashe began working harder to improve his game, he filled the void left from his mother's death with tennis. Charity realized Ashe needed a higher-level coach if he was to keep improving. Charity got Ashe in contact with Dr. Walter Johnson, the coach of the only African-American world tennis player at the time, Althea Gibson. Johnson would become Ashe's lifelong coach and mentor. Ashe began practicing day in and day out under Johnson's instruction, while still maintaining straight A's, which his father required if Ashe was to keep spending copious amounts of time on the courts. Soon, Ashe's hard work paid off because he became the first African-American to play in the Maryland Boys Championships in 1958, which also was Ashe's first integrated tennis tournament. At the age of 15, Ashe was already breaking boundaries. Being African-American in a time when America was severely racist proved to be a struggle for Ashe in terms of his tennis career. While school was in session, Ashe was limited to only playing other black players, and he could only play outdoors because indoor courts were for whites only. During the summer, Ashe traveled the country, showing his talents by winning multiple junior tennis tournaments and all across the country beating both black and white opponents. Ashe made the difficult decision to move to St. Louis for his senior year to gain a better platform into professional tennis. The move definitely proved worthwhile because on December 12, 1960, Ashe was featured in Sports Illustrated as a face in the crowd and was subsequently offered a full scholarship to UCLA after graduating first in his class. UCLA had one of the best tennis programs in the country, and Ashe experienced an increasing level of fame. While maintaining excellent grades, Ashe was the first African American to be named to the U.S. Davis Cup team and was featured again in Sports Illustrated. He became the first member of his father's side to graduate college, and in the meantime he won the individual NCAA championship and helped the UCLA win the team championship. Next, Ashe joined the Army in 1966 and served until 1968, continuing to play tennis in the Davis Cup and other tournaments while serving. Ashe decided to participate in the first U.S. Open as an amateur while still in the military. Unexpectedly, he won the tournament, becoming the only African-American man to ever win the U.S. Open, but was unable to accept the prize money because he was an amateur. The money went to the man he defeated, Tom Ocker. After leaving the military, Ashe decided he wanted to help children get involved with the sport of tennis who might not ever be exposed to tennis without the program. Arthur's National Junior Tennis League began running in 1969. He made sure to include a heavy emphasis on academics within the program because he considered education more important than anything else. Ashe's era of smooth success was about to come to an end when he wanted to compete in the South African Open in 1969. South Africa had a strict system of racial segregation called apartheid, and because of this would not allow Ashe to obtain a South African visa for the tournament, even though Ashe was ranked number 1 in the world. Throughout the following months, Ashe attempted multiple times to obtain the visa, but South Africa would not budge. He used this situation to get South Africa banned from the International Lawn Tennis Federation and began his involvement in protest against apartheid. Ashe did not let the South African Open debacle set him back because in 1970 he won the Australian Open and used his success to help form the Association of Tennis Professionals, also known as the ATP, which protected the interests of tennis professionals about their earnings and schedules. His battle with South Africa was over in 1973 when South Africa granted him a visa. He became the first black pro to compete in the tournament. He was runner-up in the singles section and won in doubles with his opponent from the U.S. Open, Tom Ocker. Ashe continued to play well, and in 1975 he beat Jimmy Connors to win at Wimbledon, becoming the first and only black man to do so, earning him his number 1 ranking again. Over the next few years, Ashe would face many troubles beyond his competitors. He suffered a heart attack in 1979, and after a quadruple bypass surgery, he decided to retire in 1980. Despite retiring, Ashe did not take it easy. He wrote for magazines and newspapers, continued activism against apartheid, and was captain of the U.S. Davis Cup team. The team won twice under his leadership. He also became the national chairman of the American Heart Association because he held this issue with as much importance as tennis. Still having troubles with his heart, Ashe underwent a second bypass surgery in 1983. To speed up his recovery, he received a blood transfusion. Tragically, the blood he received contained HIV. He did not find this out until 1988 when he experienced numbness in his hand due to a bacterial infection called toxoplasmosis, common with HIV-infected people. He then tested positive for HIV. He did not let this overcome him, continuing his work for bettering the world. He was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, founded the ABC Cities Tennis Program, the Athlete Career Connection, and the Safe Passage Foundation. In 1983, he co-founded Artists and Athletes Against Apartheid and went to South Africa to see the effects of his hard work in 1991. To show the great effect Ashe had on South Africa, when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, he said the only person he wanted from the U.S. to visit was Arthur Ashe. Ashe did a good job keeping his infection private, but in 1992, the press somehow caught wind of it. He held a press conference to publicly announce he had contracted AIDS and used it as a platform to create the Arthur Ashe Foundation for Defeat of AIDS, which raised money for treating, curing, and preventing AIDS, wishing to completely eradicate the disease. He spoke to the General Assembly of the UN on World AIDS Day to stress the need for funding for research in AIDS treatment. His work led him to be honored with Sports Illustrated's Sportsman of the Year. He then founded the Arthur Ashe Institute for Urban Health 2 months before he died to help improve health care in urban minorities. On February 6, 1993, Ashe passed away due to AIDS-related pneumonia at the age of 49. Because of his impact on society as a whole, he was buried at the Governor's Mansion in Richmond, Virginia, becoming the first person to be buried there since Stonewall Jackson in 1863. After his death, a statue was built of him on Monument Avenue in Richmond, Virginia, which commemorated Confederate war heroes. When he was a kid, Ashe would not have even been able to visit the avenue because he was black. Then, the U.S. Open Stadium was rightfully named the Arthur Ashe Stadium after its first winner. Ashe undoubtedly could be described as a triumph and a tragedy. He overcame much discrimination due to the color of his skin in the world of tennis and continually fought. When he was tragically diagnosed with AIDS, Ashe worked hard to try to eradicate the disease so others would not end up in his situation. Even after his death, Ashe was listed as the 30th out of 40 greatest players of the tennis era by Tennis Magazine, and number 14 in USA Today's 25 most inspiring people of the last 25 years. So sure, Ashe experienced many tragedies and the hardships he faced, but the way in which he overcame those should lead us to view his life as a triumph.
The way he handled his life and his ability to treat the good and the bad the same and actually go beyond that was pretty strong.
The way he handled himself under extreme pressure, not only in the last 9 months, but also before that. He was a black man in a white sport, and he was such a graceful person, and on and off the court, and that's something that so few athletes, I think, nowadays have.
Arthur Ashe wrote his own epitaph as to how he would like for us to remember him.
I guess I tried to be a holistic athlete in the sense of not just stopping with what happened on the field or on the court. Ultimately, I guess I did not want to be known or remembered for just having hit tennis balls, and I don't think that will be the case.
He did so much more than hit tennis balls.
To win the Open.
30-15. 40-15.
Bad bounce, Ace.
Again.
Game is track.
I think they'll play the first few games. Big ace. 4. If the opponent gets to it. Another ace.
5.
Game is
Ace number 6.
30-15.
Number 7.
Number
40-15.
8. The big events are all best of 5.
There's another one. Number 9.
40, love.
And 10.
I think he weighed under 140 himself.
15, love.
There's number 11 for Aces Ash.
An agile fellow. He was right up on top of it.
The ace, number 12. Number 13.
It'd be awfully hard to serve. But he did it.
30, love.
14.
Game, Mr. Ashe.
15.